Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee or a delicious menu item while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Come by and say hello to Maui. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com, Chief Envelope Licker for Critical Blast Logistics, Editor for Critical Blast Publishing, and currently the most hated man of the final hours of 2021. So here's to you, our viewers who are popping in to see our live stream tonight. Tonight, we are going to speak with a crowdfunding artist. You've seen him on Rock and Roll Ninja. And that is Matt Bahr, of course. He's going to have some new things coming in. Hargrave, good to see you, man. Glad that you're here. Bring other people. Bring the gang. Have them all come over. We're going to drink it up here for a little bit and talk comics. We're going to bring in Matt to do that. Matt, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, sir. It's where I'm at. It's 5 hours away, so might as well be tomorrow. It is tomorrow.
Yeah. 8 o'clock where I'm at right now. I'm
okay,
not sure
so you're an hour closer to it.
Don't ask me the math.
When it hits, let me know how it is, so I know if I need to run west as fast as I can and just outrun it as long as I can.
Absolutely.
That was a Superman comic back in the 70s, maybe early 80s. It was the days when Clark Kent was doing the WGBS anchor desk part of his gig instead of being the reporter for the Daily Planet. And Morgan Edge had a 24-hour New Year's party because he had rented the Concorde, and it was flying, faster than sound, of course, and it was entering each time zone right at midnight. So they were 24-hour drunk. They were going on.
Nice.
It was interesting.
Concorde. When was the last Concorde that flew?
I've never really kept track of them. I thought they were still flying just in France, I thought. I don't know why they would have taken them down. Were they unsafe? It didn't speak or anything?
I think, let me close my window. There was like moths flying in here. I think one or two crashed. So then
that would not be good. Heroin Burgess here. Hail to the chat. RJ and Matt, any chance of a brief Zach cameo too? Doubtful. I think that's something that Zach just doesn't do that, does he? He doesn't go on shows.
No. I mean, when I email him, I get a reply pretty quickly. Like I'll get a reply within a few minutes, but I've never actually talked to him like on the phone or anything. Like,
yeah,
he's pretty. I think he's just really what's the word? Sequestered himself. After like the Comedy Central stuff, I don't think he only connects to people very protectively.
Yeah, and I wonder how that. The books don't hurt. Rock and Roll Ninja, I'm looking at it here, it made $63,000 so far.
Yeah,
but I just have to think that
maybe if I do like two or three more books, maybe he'll like call me up.
Well, I would just think that maybe he could sell better if he would do like the rest of the guys do and go on other people's shows and hawk up his books. I mean, I see Rock and Roll Ninja, and I can barely say it without saying it in a sort of unexcited way. Probably, Rock and Roll Ninja, Knife Hand Blind Spot. That's how it's all one word in my head now, because I do watch his videos. They just don't tell me about the books.
Yeah. I asked if we were going to do a video, and he said that the numbers don't really justify having a trailer video. So he's TL, so I'm going to just follow his lead on it.
Do what the CO says there, man.
Exactly. So I'm just, I'm like, all right, man. I I have my portion of the project, and I'm just focusing on that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Just draw. Well, your portion of the project's complete, right? I mean, it's shipping, or is it still wrapping up?
It's still wrapping up. I still have some pages to do.
Okay, so you're the reason Vicky's mad.
Who's Dickie?
Vicky. You're the reason Vicky's mad, right?
She's not mad yet at me.
Okay.
I make sure that Vicky is updated on everything that I'm doing, so she's well aware when I'm working on rock and roll and when I'm not. I mean, I do have like a full-time career.
Yeah.
That I have, and I have 2 kids. So,
well, there's a time suck. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I'm not doing those other 2 things, like it's Rock and Roll Ninja all the way. So I have a couple more pages to do, but
well, that's fine. In fact, it's not even fair to say Rock and Roll Ninja is the reason she's angry, because it's got a February 2022 date on it. So it's just that every time people start talking about late books, all I hear is Zach and EVS, and I'm like, I've got a stack of stuff that I've received, and I don't recall it being too late, and some of it's been on time, and some of it was early.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that it's late, but I wouldn't be losing my shit. There's maybe a couple of campaigns that are
a couple are egregiously late, but
there's a couple that are like, holy shit, what are you doing? But I would say on an average, I mean, I think at this point, if you're going to be doing campaign, you just kind of expect like an additional 6 months.
That's exactly the number I use. 6 months beyond that date, and then it's like, okay, where's my book?
Yeah, I'm going to give you 6 months just to figure out what the hell's going on. You know what I mean? Like that's legitimate. Anything past that, you definitely need some updates, and then I don't know, after that, it's really up to you on whether or not you want a refund or not. But
I did a show on late books, and my advice, just from working in the industries I have, always update, because even if there's nothing new to say every week, right, nothing new has happened, because what'll happen is you'll get sick of writing nothing new has happened, and you'll make something happen. Just so you have something different to write in the updates. Jim O'Reilly in the chat, welcome, sir. And Dan Flegel, Boob Dan Art is here, and he says, Rock and Roll Ninja rules, friends.
Man, Dan from Goblin Girl.
Absolutely. So if it rules, tell me why it rules, man. What's this thing about? Because I honestly don't know. I know it exists. That's it.
You know it exists. It's something that you didn't know you wanted until you saw it. It is, instead of trying to break down the story, it's if you took Apocalypse Now with Buckaroo Banzai.
Ooh,
and you combine them. Okay, it has that kind of gnarly Vietnam flavor to it, but then it's also got this kind of weird, wild kind of zaniness that a Buckaroo Banzai or a Little Big Trouble in Little China. You know what I mean? It's got that kind of fun to it, but with Chuck's writing, it's like, I'm just talking in movies because I don't want to ruin the story. So I'm just gonna it's like Chuck brought Mission Impossible or Missing in Action, and I'm like bringing cartoons to it, So it's got Ninja Scroll, and it's got the Octagon,
all good fighting movies.
So it's got some really serious fighting stuff. I love gear. I love drawing guns. I love drawing tech. I love drawing pouches and shit like that. But I also love cartoons. I love Greg Capullo, and I love Jack Davis, and I love
Jack Davis is great.
Will Eisner. So there's a levity to my faces, and there's some elasticity to my anatomy, that might lead more to animation. But
yeah, and I think that elasticity factor is really important in comics. One of the things when I was reading Heroes in Crisis, I still have PTSD from that. And it's the only Crisis book DC ever did that I quit in the middle without finishing. Uh, as much as I wasn't caring for the story, I kept looking at the art. I'm like, the art is beautiful. Clayman's work is great. Why don't I like it? Um, and it hit me is because it lacked that elasticity. These were so photorealistic that you could tell they were lifeless mannequins posed and drawn from. There were scenes where, like, Batgirl is watching a fight and her eyes are just dead. There's
what
nothing.
book is this again?
This was Heroes in Crisis.
Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah, Clayman did the art. He's excellent draftsman, but he just wasn't putting the light.
Yeah. I saw there was somebody else. It was I don't remember who did it. It was the Injustice comic book for the video game. I don't remember who did it, but I picked it up and was like, it looked like they had like traced CGI characters or something. You know what I mean? It was
it ran for like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years with different artists. So depending on when you picked it up, I know that Mike S. Miller was on it in the very beginning.
Okay.
I'm
not trying to start any kind of beef. I'm not trying to start any kind of beef, but I was about to say, yeah, the early shit. I don't know the guy other than him destroying some of my artwork, but
I wasn't even thinking that, but I did have it written down to ask about that because you had talked about that on Twitter, and then it kind of faded from my timeline, and I'm like, that's insane. Can you
I think it was like something. Yeah, it's like a kind of a joke that's been said and going around. But yeah, he kind of lost his shit for a moment, and like I met him, and this was at the World Comic-Con in New Orleans, and it was the last one that Stan Lee was at. I remember going to see Stan Lee doing an interview, and I got to sit real close because we had some hookups because I was there with a friend of mine who's kind of a celebrity. So I'm there with my friend, and I'm helping him out with his table. I'm like not there as an artist. I'm just there as my homie that I was there was Bob Camp. So from Ren and Stimpy, like I'd met him like maybe 10 years earlier, and so we just like connected and like we're just hanging out, right? So he was like, "Do you want to go to New Orleans with me and help me out?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I'm down there.
You had me in New Orleans.
Yeah, totally. So I was like, "Yeah, man, that'd be fucking fun." So because he like hurt his back, and so I was like carrying his stuff for his table. But it was fun. I was totally happy to help him. So we were there, and we were sitting at our table, and around the corner was this little guy with a ponytail, and he was kind of moving around kind of fast, and he was like trying to put his tables together with like other tables.
Oh, okay.
Right. So he was like trying to like double up his table space. Right.
Yeah, making a little table fort.
Yeah, I mean, first off, this guy was maybe 4'11", right, max, and like he had this tapestry that was huge. It was like 20 feet because it was like right behind us. We were like, "Holy shit! Look how fucking tall this thing is!" And it had like all kinds of scaffolding and shit, and it's like grips and all kinds of rigmarole, and so that was our first interaction with him, was like watching him put together his area, and the convention people came over and were like, yeah, you gotta get rid of some of these tables, and he had like already like started spreading out his artwork and shit, and so he was like, oh, okay, so he got rid of the tables because I guess they like pulled from somebody else's area. So some people were like showing up like, "Hey, where's my tables?" And so that was the first day. So like the second day, I don't know if it was like slow, but it was like a little. It was just like in the middle of the day, not a lot going on. So me and Bob, we started drawing on Post-its, and we started drawing these little like wieners with smiley faces.
Oh no,
Right?
Mike, hey Mike.
Which were like I wouldn't call them like gratuitous. It was like a small curve, big curve, small curve. Right? There
Okay,
wasn't
yeah, the
there
kind I've
wasn't
seen graffitied under so many overpasses.
yeah, right. But then it had like on the tip of the secondary curve was a little smiley face. Right? So we were putting those, and so what we would do is we were putting them down on the floor in front of our table. Right? So we're sitting at our table, and there's people walking in front of us in the aisle, right?
Yeah.
And as they're walking in front of us, we say, "Hey, you dropped something," and they look down, and there's a post-it of a wiener, the smiley
Smiling up at
face,
them.
right? And so they laugh, they think it's funny, they pick it up, and suddenly it's like, "Oh, did you draw this?" Yeah, and suddenly they have that, and then they keep walking. Like nobody was getting poopy pants. Nobody was calling anybody. Like it was all fun. Every time we were doing it, it was super fun. And so,
I can't imagine such immature behavior from Bob Camp. It just startles me to death.
dude, right? And it was like there wasn't like preschoolers going through, and there weren't veins or little curly hairs. Like it was super like simple, and we used some tape, and we taped them. We taped a couple down because they were like getting kicked. We didn't want them to get kicked. We wanted them to get seen, and we even like videotaped a couple people like seeing it and like reacting. It was always like a good natured, good humor laughter, especially when they looked over and saw like oh shit, it's fucking Ren and Stimpy. Like it's not even like
Exactly.
it's fun and games. And then and most of the times they would see these several. There'd be like 2 or 3 post-its on the floor with the little wieners and the smiley faces. They would look down, laugh, and then they would come over and either buy a log pencil, they would either buy a T-shirt, or they would sign up for a sketch. You know what I mean? So there was some promotional value to the art that we were
Yeah, you
creating.
attracted people.
There was an actual money being generated, by people coming over, and it was goodwill. So we were having a good time, and all of a sudden, man, this fucking little guy comes around the corner, right, and starts fucking kicking up all the fucking post-its. Starts kicking them up, right, and like going down and like ripping them all up. And the ones that he's kicking up, he can't because they're taped down. So he has to squat down, and he's like fucking ripping them up, and he like takes them all up and like balls them up and like walks over to the trash can and like throws them in the trash can. And I mean, it was like he tried to throw that wad of post-its as hard as he could right into that trash can. And it didn't knock over. There wasn't any like kaboom like drama. He just like threw it in there, and that was it. And then he like stomped back over to his table.
And you drew more.
Yeah, we were just like, holy shit! Like no eye contact from him. No like, hey guys, I'm a fucking 12th day evangelist or whatever the fuck. I don't appreciate wieners with smiley faces. I don't know. He like didn't say anything. It was just a complete like weird fascist moment of him to judge what's art and what isn't and then to interject himself in our commerce and our means of branding. So that's my story. That's my Mike Miller ripping up my art story.
That's interesting because had you told this story like a couple of years ago? Because one of the things that caused there were lots of things cause rifts. It's never just one thing. But I know that online his Twitter feed started getting filled up with phallic objects, clouds, towers, bushes.
What?
Yeah, and it was it was always with the words Mike, hey Mike, and then a picture. And Ethan had started that whole thing off, and it was a joke, I thought, because it's like, oh yeah, that monolith from ancient Greece looks like a penis, and he blocked everybody and just kind of sequestered himself.
I don't know anything about that. Like, I haven't been on Twitter for more than a year. I don't think I've been on Twitter that long. This is completely like separate from what you're saying right now.
I just didn't know if somebody heard the story and then was inspired to say, well, let's send him pictures and see if he still reacts that way.
I didn't start telling this story until recently. This was just between me and Bob and Bob's girlfriend that was there.
Well, the reactions, they certainly mesh with what he did there and how things work.
And you can even figure out like the date of that convention. It was New Orleans World Comic Con,
and early 2018,
and Stan Lee showed up. Yeah, I remember it was like one of the last times Stan Lee was present. Oh my God, was that fucking depressing?
Oh yeah, I've seen Stan at one of his later conventions, and it was definitely the handlers are the ones doing the talking,
dude. And what's crazy is I met with that same week. See, now I'm gonna drop some dope stories. Like
dope.
That same weekend, I had drinks with his manager Max and his nurse. At their bar, right? So, which was like not even like that big of a deal. Like I guess Stan Lee was upstairs. He had gone to bed, and they came down. The nurse, she seemed like she was nice. There was no like, hey, we just assaulted Stan upstairs, or hey, we just pumped Stan full of cocaine and and fucking Adderall.
He's out cold. We roofied him.
Yeah. There wasn't no like, hey, we just roofied him. It was just like, yeah. He did whatever, and now he's in bed, and everything is cool. And the only thing that I thought was a little shady, or like poopy pants, was like Max was like not with us. If that makes sense. Like he would say something, and then as soon as it was your turn to say something, he was like looking over your shoulder to see like who else was in.
Oh yeah, can I make a better connection?
Lobby? Yeah. It was just like, yeah. I'm gonna talk about some shit. Stanley name drop, and then start fucking just like totally fucking scanning. It was just like I could start talking about anything I fucking want right now, and I think I did. I started talking about like. Is a hand that is asleep, does it weigh less than a hand that's not? Just to see it, you know what I mean? Like a tingling because it's like it has less blood. So I was like, is a hand that has less weigh less? And he just didn't even register. He just kept like fucking like looking around. So yeah, so I met them and that was cool. I guess it was kind of weird. But
he knew Stan was getting too old. He was probably looking for Roy Thomas.
Yeah. Max was looking for
who can I glom onto next?
He was looking for Steranko, dude. He was like, "Where's Steranko? I heard Steranko's around here."
I need to be preparing for the future. That convention was January 5th through the 7th, 2018. So that was definitely one of his. That's the same year he died. So it was definitely his last time in New Orleans.
And so that doesn't correlate with Mike's Twitter wiener
No, that
barrage.
his Twitter wiener barrage came later in 2018. Much
Okay.
later.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. Totally separate. But that says something though, doesn't it?
It does. The man's super straight. That's the best I could figure. Um,
Dude, just like seeing his own, he like gets mad.
I have
Like,
to mop
you wash
the floor
your
every
dick.
time I
He's like, I'm not
close
touching
my
your
eyes.
dick. I'm not even touching my own dick.
I'll mop the urine off the floor because I'm not going to look at it to make sure I hit the target.
Right. Well, he like undoes his pants, but then does like the full lean and against the wall,
Oh,
and then
man,
that where it just like it's a straight down. There's not much aiming
there you go. There you go.
involved.
As long as you got enough to get out of the pants.
Man, Stan Lee was like, they helped him up on stage like it was fucking Weekend at Bernie's.
Mm. Yeah,
Like,
I've
helped him
seen.
up on stage, and like they had like a whole like 10-minute thing of like, okay, nobody bring up his wife, nobody bring up Jack Kirby, nobody bring up fucking Steve Ditko, right? Like just like don't bring up anything other than like the simplest, most vanilla like comments that you can. Like they're basically like prepping the audience.
Yeah.
And so they brought him out on stage, and they needed I don't know if it was they didn't need a translator, but they had kids come up on to the microphones and were like, which Dragon Ball Z character is your favorite? And then then the person who was with him on stage would like hear the question and then lean over and say, hey Stan, like he wants to know like what your favorite Dragon Ball Z character is, because I guess Stan was deaf at that time,
Probably very much.
and he was just like, Dragon Ball Z. I don't know about Dragon Ball Z, but my favorite character is Spider-Man because he has all the normal problems of a teenager. I think that's great. And then everybody just fucking like clapped. You know what I mean? It was just like,
you knew that was going to be the answer to the question, regardless.
Yeah. And then they were like, hey man, if you had a question for Stan Lee, like what would you ask him? I would be like, I'd fucking ask him if he wanted a nap. Like, fucking leave the dude alone for fucking like just 20 minutes. Like,
Stan was the last to get information about his projects for a long time. I got to have him on the phone for an interview. I've got the tape somewhere, and this was back when Ang Lee's Hulk movie was out in theaters. And
so he was still a little spry.
Yeah, he was still at home. I called direct from his house and everything. But one of the things I brought up was, I said, it's terrible news that Stripperella's been canceled, because it had just been canceled like that morning. I was reading the news on it. He's like, what? No, it's not canceled. it's still going for another season. And I was like, oh well, maybe the news is wrong. The news wasn't wrong. Stan hadn't been told yet.
Oh, poor Stan.
But it did seem like he was going through a period there where he was trying too hard to create something because it was what was expected of him. Create something.
Mm-hmm.
So you got things like Mosaic. You got things like Stripperella. He did a number of different characters that went straight to DVD for projects that looked like they might go somewhere and then never really quite did.
Yeah, I remember somebody's asking at that con was like, do you have any plans? And they were like, oh yeah, Stan has like a whole universe planned. Like he has a whole nother 20 characters lined up.
The next one.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is the next universe. And I think when they said next universe, I was like, wait a minute. Didn't they already do that?
Yeah, for DC. He did Stan Lee Presents. And then he did, I know he did another one.
Oh, no. Didn't they do something called New Universe?
Oh, well, yeah, Marvel did the New Universe.
Mm-hmm.
And he was still, I don't think he had an official title at Marvel even then, but he was still, goodwill spokesperson, signed everything.
Hey guys, Uncle Stan here. Yeah.
Yeah. But New Universe was a mess.
He was out in Hollywood. Yeah, I think that's some Jim Shooter stuff right there.
Yeah. That was the Shooter era. Speaking of shooters, I live on a resort lake, here in northern Arkansas. So apparently the fireworks have begun early and loudly, and it's not so much that their problem, but they freak the dog out. So she'll be barking every time she hears one go off. Because this is not like you can tell this is not like a professional studio of any kind. We just kind of set up and talk.
I didn't even notice.
Um, Rock and Roll Ninja, though, getting back to that for just a little bit here.
Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, what were you doing? Obviously, you were doing stuff because you were at conventions with Bob Camp and stuff. What were you doing in comics before, and what was it that attracted Zach's attention to say, "Hey, would you be the guy to draw this book?"
Okay. I had. It's a funny story. Funny story.
Best kind.
So I was living in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and they had I was doing T-shirt designs. I was doing screen print, and they had a local local comic convention called XCon, and so I did the T-shirt for it. Like I designed the T-shirt, and I designed a whole bunch of other stuff for it. And for that, they gave me a free table at the convention.
Oh, nice.
Right. So I was like, yeah, cool. I was like, at this point, I like really wasn't thinking about comic books that much. Like I was still like a big fan, still buying stuff. But at that point, like any free time, it was filled up with like paying work. You know what I mean? Like it was like, I don't know. If I was going to draw something, it was going to be some freelance stuff. Like I wasn't just going to like start drawing sample pages anymore. But so I did this work. So I got the table. So I'm at the con, and so I'm sitting there just kind of doodling some robots and stuff. And this older guy walks over, and he's like, "Oh, that's cool. I like what you're drawing." And I'm like, "Hey, thanks a lot." And we start chatting. He's like, "Can I sit down next to you?" And I'm like, "Yes, sure. Yeah, man. Like, cool." So he sets up his stuff right next to me, and we're just like bullshitting, and like he like didn't bring anything. Like he didn't bring pencils. He like fucking forgot paper. Like he didn't have shit, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, "Yeah, man. Here's some cardstock paper. Here's some cool pencils. Here's a couple of markers." I didn't know who he was. And then as soon as they opened the doors, like there was a line of people in front of him. Just like, "Man, I fucking love Ren and Stimpy. I love Ren and Stimpy." And I was like, "Oh, shit. Oh, okay. What's up, bro?" And so then we like hung out after the con, and then we just kind of like buddied up where for a few years he'd come to XCon and he'd stay at my house, and we'd always party and hang out. And then that eventually, just through him, like I met Clay, who started Space Ghost, who did all the voices. And so I ended up starting to hang out with him. And then like, "Hey, do you want to come to the con with me?" So sure. So it's like I wasn't working in the comic book industry. I was just like hanging out like at these tables.
Stumbled forward into it.
I just kind of stumbled forward where I was suddenly like sitting next to Jim Steranko, like asking him if he wants some water. You know what I mean? And it was just like, and all this time, like I'm doing like my NFL work, like I'm doing stuff that's like pretty legit, right? So when I'm hanging out with these people, like Bob Burden, a guy who created Flaming Carrot, like he's a really good friend of mine because he lives in Atlanta, so he has dinner with me sometimes. So like when we're hanging out, I'm not like asking them for work. I'm not talking to them about comic books, right? We're just talking about other stuff, but like they know that I'm an artist and like that I've done stuff that they can respect. So so it's cool. So I could just like hang out with them, and I'm not like a fanboy about it. I'm just another artist, just kind of hanging out. So I end up like having like, brunch, with Bob Camp and Larry Hama. You know what I mean? It's just like it's very like Forrest Gumpy in a way, or I just kind of like stumbled into these cons and being in places and being in like VIP party rooms at Dragon Con and stuff. But all that is completely separate from how I met Zach. So I met videos. I was at work one day, and I was an art director at the screen print shop in Athens, Georgia. And I was listening to his videos, and he made a comment about Marvel being dead. The Marvel that you want to work for is dead, which is something that struck me because as a kid, I remember really wanting to work at Marvel and really like having that dream of working in the bullpen and knowing everything about Marvel, from Speedball to who the Eternals were. I was just like, just in case Stan Lee walks by and like quizzes me, I'll be like all Marvel. But that kind of died when the bills and the mortgage was due. So he said that kind of rang in my head. And then another video not long after that, he said that he was having a hard time finding artists because they didn't want to catch the heat for working with him. And and I was like, well, fuck it, I'll do it. Like I just suddenly I was like, I want to do some comics. And so I emailed him, and within like 72 hours, we had like emailed each other like 90 times. Like we had like, I showed him some samples of stuff that I had done for this United Nations comic book that I wrote and illustrated, and he liked that. And when I sent that to him, I sent him a couple of story ideas, not like long ones, like a sentence pitch, right? Sure. Like, hey, I want to do a heist movie, but the security system is a ninja that they have to get through. You know what I mean? It was like, that wasn't what I said, but it was like stuff like that. It was like one sentence. And he saw that, and he was like, hey, one of your ideas is kind of like mine. You want to burrito roll them together and make something? And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. That sounds awesome. And so that's what we did. So for like the next week, we created a Google Doc and just started like adding to it different notes and ideas and where we wanted the story to go. And then once we had all this stuff together, we brought Chuck Dixon in, which is like
now you're fanboy.
that was a fanboy moment where I was just like, holy shit. Like I could like literally reach out and touch a comic book that has Chuck's name on it,
Yeah.
And he's like asking me like, and talking to me, and I'm like telling him to like add stuff to it. Not telling him, but I'm like, sir, could you please add maybe some? And he's like, yeah, sure, totally. And so he wrote the scripts for it. And
so this was a really collaborative script. It wasn't like, you got handed a script and you draw it. You were there.
No, I'm definitely a co-creator on this. Like from the get-go, like what they were going to look like, where the story was going to go, because I spent a lot of time in New York City as a kid and as a young adult, going to school there. So there's a lot of parts of the city that I know. There's little details of the city that I feel like I'm bringing, some of the grime, some of the beauty.
Yeah. Well, and the art style that you employ in this, I'll bring it back up again. And I wish these pictures were big. They're not, but it's a very loving it's very indie / underground kind of style, because it does have that elasticity, and it's it's black and white, and it's also it's set in that era of the Vietnam War when all the underground books were coming out, and you have bigger pictures than I got, so let's go to yours. Yeah, look at this stuff. Yeah, this could have been in any underground anti-war kind of comic, and I say that in the complimentary way.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we were definitely like, okay, let's go, gritty. Let's make it look like you picked it up in the gutter on St. Mark's Place. There's almost a fanzine. Like I almost wanted it to get printed on newsprint, so it even had more of a kind of a punky kind of a feel. Not punk rock, more of like late '70s rock.
Yeah.
So this is them. They're like showing up at their place, their hideout, their hangout, and they're watching some ninja movies. And there's some actual ninjas showing up in the rooftop.
So they're Vietnam vets and they're musicians. So there's sort of a double meaning band of brothers here because they're a band. And
yeah, they were part of that Max Sa group in Vietnam. So they were part of the special operations group there. And while you're there, in your fire team, you start to create that tight bond, that band of brothers. And so I think it's on the campaign page, but you see them, they start to play these instruments that the USO band leaves behind during a mortar strike. Right?
Yeah,
so
I see
they're kind of hanging out. They're watching this US Open band. They suck. And suddenly these mortars start dropping on the base. Well, the guys know that this is a new mortar team because they just killed the last mortar team. So they're not really worried about like where these people are going to be hitting. So they go up on stage and they pick up the instruments and they start rocking out and they realize just how good they are together. And
Trial
so
by fire.
Back, yeah, exactly. So it's almost like Charlie's making pyrotechnics for him. It's like boom, 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 boom was all around him and stuff. I could just see it happening in a movie. It'd be pretty funny. But so they
especially if they were hitting on beat.
Yeah, right. Oh,
like,
yeah,
they were like doing a rock and roll version of the 1812 Overture, and every time they hit that note, and the bombs would go boom, boom.
Yeah, like what was the movie Baby Driver?
Yeah.
Where they had the music and the guns and the cars were all like in unison.
All synced together.
Yeah. And like as soon as I saw them do, I was like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool. So they come back to the States. They start playing in a band. They realize that they need some money. They want to expand. They want to get, some other shit. Actually, they get into a bar fight and they get their equipment damaged. They get into a bar fight with some S&M guys that are wearing assless chaps.
Oh, God. Okay.
But they're wearing like these cod pieces in the front that are like shiny with like armor all. So I spent there's this whole fight scene where they're like, because Chuck said, Chuck in the script, he was like, they fight a rough crowd. And then he mentioned somebody wearing like a Bane mask or something, right? Somebody's wearing like an S&M mask, like a gimp. Yeah. And so I was just like, well, maybe the whole crowd's wearing fucking gimp costumes. And they're all like jacked up on testosterone like Bane, but they don't have any genitalia, so they're all wearing like these cod pieces, and they fill them with like meat because they're in the meat packing district. Oh.
This is becoming an episode of Preacher all of a sudden.
It's really wild stuff. Yeah, so I'm like, because I really want to like put my own little visual, like what the fuck is going on into some of this. So yeah, so they get their equipment damaged, and when they get their equipment damaged, they just happen to have gotten a call from their former the former colonel, and it's offering a job to update this group of indigenous people, which is very much Green Beret thing, to become a force multiplier. You know, you go in, you teach the indigenous people modern tactics, modern weapons, plastic explosives, C4, stuff like that.
Right.
It just turns out that this group of people that they came to upgrade were this ninja clan. So they get drugged and they become part of the clan. Like it's basically like become part of the clan or die. And then once they're in the clan, they become brainwashed and
Holy shit, we're drafted again.
yeah. So they become like these like first they were like, you know, special forces guys, and they were like really good at their stuff, you know, being like tough guys. But now that they've like gone through like ninja training, they've like become even better. So they're like super fucking dope. They're like jumping through the trees, using the ropes, you know, but really, really fun stuff. And like, you know, those montages, those like ninja montages that you wish you saw in the Snake Eyes movie?
Yes.
They're in this book.
Yeah, like
Okay.
all the training scenes in the Remo Williams books that I write.
Dude,
yes,
I fucking love Remo Williams. Okay.
Oh well,
Fucking love Remo.
see the sign behind me there. Let me change screens here. See the banner behind me.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I got to write the last three.
Oh, nice.
And he's got two more manuscripts, but he wants one to come out before those two. So I'm working on that one. Supposedly, kind of trying to. It's really hard because Remo books always parody and satire what's crazy in society and take it to the next level. And right now, I'm having difficulty seeing how to do that. Because
yeah, dude, it seems pretty ratcheted up right now at the moment. It almost seems like somebody's writing it.
Yeah, and the scary thing is like all the plot devices I threw into my last three books have like suddenly happened in different places. I'm like, I don't want to write anything apocalyptic because it might spell the end. But that
man, I really like that movie.
The movie, so yeah,
cool. So we got a lot of that stuff going on.
Is there any way you can tell me without spoiling the book if this is something that we'll see again? You know, another, because I know Zach says, you know, his biggest problem with his business was that he killed off the team that was his bestseller. And I hope that didn't happen.
I mean, it's not. I guess it's not spoilers, but yeah, there's definitely like talk about a sequel because, like where we are in time, like right now we're in late 70s, maybe 81, right? We might be pushing it, right?
Okay.
So we're dealing with like Thin Lizzy, maybe like the Blockheads, maybe like Iggy Pop. You know what I mean? Like we're kind of dealing with that. Like maybe the last issue somebody might mention the Ramones, right? So that's kind of where we're at. So the next book will be in the future, obviously, and we'll start dealing with maybe a new form of music that's coming out of Harlem. You know, maybe we're dealing with like the Boogie Down Bronx. Maybe we're dealing with Furious Five. You know, Kool Moe D. You know, we're going to maybe we'll dip into some rap, some early rap stuff has been talked about and bantered. So yeah, we're going to move forward with some more Rock and Roll Ninja. Cool. as they kind of move through music. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I hope the fan response to the first
one.
I
say rap, but like we also called out like British. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be some British new wave stuff going on where like we'll have we might have somebody, a character that represents the British new wave pop coming in. You know, but
how they respond to disco.
Yeah, I think disco might be dead at this point in
Okay,
the story.
good. Because if not, they could kill it. That would be great. Um,
Yeah, but I mean, like Angel has some like Studio 54 kind of vibes to him. Angel is the lead singer of the band, and he's a Latino guy. I mean, he's gay. I wouldn't say any. I wouldn't say any homophobic slurs at him because he'd probably beat the shit
yeah,
out of
you
you.
kick your ass.
Yeah, he totally kick your ass. But he's kind of like old school, like Stonewall gay, and like he doesn't say anything. And I don't think we ever mentioned that he's gay in the book. But I
Probably
mean,
because it wasn't important to the story.
it's not important to the story. It's not important to the story. But if you look at the cues, like you could totally tell. Like when they're training, when everybody else is wearing like their full gi and outfit, like he's always wearing like a loincloth. And when everybody else is drinking beers, he's drinking like drinks with little cocktails and stuff. When they escape from the ninja clan, uh, everybody else has like their kind of shirt undone, and he has his like kind of tied up and like a little bow. I mean, it's like not part of the story, but I think it's funny, and it's like these like
It
little
impacts character
visual
development in
cues.
action.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be said. I mean, if you catch it, you do.
Yeah,
If you don't, you
but it
don't.
doesn't
You know
have
what I
to
mean?
be the story.
It's not. It's not. I think in one frame you see him as a drag queen, right? So like you see one character is like working in the tunnels. He's like a sand rat, working in the subway tunnels. One guy is working in elevator shafts, like those are part-time jobs.
Yeah.
Another guy is doing film editing, right? So he's at this machine editing, and then we show Angel, and he's like in drag with like other drag queens on a stage, right? So it's like nothing is said, but like it's totally there, and that's what I like.
Hockey wants you to know that they do have Australian music, so um, yeah, if you want to throw some safety dance in there, I guess. Men without hats. Crab Radio says the disco is coming back. I don't believe him.
Hmm.
And Raiden Radio, we have two radio stations tuned into a comic book about music. Interesting.
What's up,
Um,
guys?
yeah,
Yo,
Harlem. You
chat.
better stay in your lane. Yeah, Raiden Radio is got his hackles up on that one, I'm sure, because he said it's a joke. But his next book is actually set in Harlem, and we'll be having him on soon enough. So
Ed Pisker, is that the guy? He did like a Public Enemy comic book.
uh, I don't know about that one,
Right.
but I think the one that's coming out is going. It's a noir set in Harlem. So the book is called Noirlem.
Uh,
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
look,
whatever works.
it's
Yeah.
look. It is a group of white guys doing this comic book, so it's not like we're gonna get too deep into the social aspects of Harlem in the early '80s. I mean, we might get into like some of like the emptying out of the building and stuff, but I don't think it's gonna get that deep where we need to be. We need to like check it or something. We need to have it like reread or checked by somebody else.
All right, Harrenberg, you're right. I was thinking of men at work, not men without hats. Um, so
Men Without Hats,
yeah,
they're good.
Olivia Newton-John.
Olivia
that's,
Newton-John.
that's the extent of my Australian musical knowledge.
Has anybody caught up Midnight Oil? Oh wait, there you go. Somebody just caught up Midnight Oil.
Yeah, yep. Again, I most of the time I don't know where bands are from. I went 20 years without even knowing who the band members were. I just oh, this is Journey. I think Steve, what's his name, sings. I don't know who the other guys are. And
Nobody's called out NXS. I'm sitting here going, where's NXS? Right,
oh,
they're Australian, right?
if you say so, I'm not the music guy. Harrenberg is definitely the music man. Sometimes we have Austin ATX on here. Blast Beat ATX. He does a lot of music on Ryan's show.
That's cool. Yeah, a lot of the places in Rock and Roll Ninja that we draw or that we have in the comic book. I went there like CBGB's, I was there a bunch. Wetlands, I was there a bunch. Webster Hall. So a lot of these like places that I'm drawing, like I remember being there, and seeing music, seeing hardcore bands.
Cool. So,
It's fun.
are you looking at doing anything after the last page of Rock and Roll Ninjas turned in that's not Rock and Roll Ninja?
Yeah, I have a secret project that I'm working on right now. Well, not right now, but actually, yeah, I'm working on it a little bit right now. I'm
The
supposed to have it.
details are being ironed out. So,
Yeah, well, it's pretty dope. Once it's out, it'll be out. But it's one of those things where he wants to have everything finished before he announces it.
so
So
it's another Zach project then.
yeah. But I'm only doing like 6 pages, so my stuff will be finished. It won't. It's not a problem. And then after that, I have 2 more things with Zach. Um, One, it's like he tells me, it's like, okay, here's our next thing. It's gonna be on the DL. We're gonna be kind of quiet about it, and then he'll like say something about it on his video,
Yeah.
right? So, like he's mentioned something about sidekicks, about a Batman like character, um, losing his shit and trying to kill his sidekicks. So that'll be something, and that's something that I was like, dude, fuck yes. I am so fucking down with that because like I want to do Batman. Like Batman was like the last comic book that I bought for mainstream. You know what I mean? It was like the last like thing that I was like going to the comic book store to buy was Batman. So like this was like just like so in my eye. I was like, dude, absolutely, I'll totally do that. And then after that, there's something. I don't think we have like a solid name for it, but it is a kind of a cross between Bloodsport and Hellraiser.
Okay.
So that's all I really want to like say about that because I don't
All
I
we
don't
can make out.
if he leaks it, then your boy leaks it. But that's all I want to say is that it's Bloodsport. It's Bloodsport meets Hellraiser.
Now you're
So
talking
it's
about
like,
Bloodsport the movie meets Hellraiser the movie.
yeah, I'm sorry. Like I've done so much like TV production that I'm used to talking like that sometimes. Where I just
I was
start
just thinking
talking.
like Bloodsport the Superman villain versus
Oh no, I'm totally talking in like movies. I'm totally
Okay.
speaking movies. Yeah, I'm thinking it's Bloodsport meets Hellraiser
Okay.
and some sort of it's demonic kumite. Um, it's not quite Mortal Kombat because Mortal Kombat already exists, but it's something else. It's me and it's Zach.
Herrenberg says that J. Michael Straczynski, he did do a series called Sidekick, or was it Sidekicks? Anyway, it was in 2014, 2016. It was Image. Also, if you're talking about like sidekicks losing their shit and going off, a really interesting and dark book that came out in the, I want to say late 80s, early 90s, was Brat Pack by Rick Veitch, which was
Hmm.
totally a commentary on the comic book industry because they, instead of Batman, there was the Midnight Mink. Um,
Hmm.
Instead of Green Arrow, it was like King Rad. And they were all at the worst possible presentations of themselves, and they
Mm.
had to have sidekicks. They had to have new sidekicks because their last set of sidekicks had gotten blown up.
Oh, that's cool.
And they have to have sidekicks because they have contracts, they have trademark deals,
And this was
and
called
on
Brat Pack.
merchandising. Yeah. So
I need to write this down because I need to go check it out so
yeah,
that
you
I don't
definitely
I
need to
don't
check it out.
fucking I don't want to retread
The Midnight Mink has
anything.
to have Chippy. Moon Maiden has to have Moon Mistress has to have Luna, and
Is like a
Judge Jury
working
had to have
name.
Sid
If
Vicious.
somebody else has already done Sidekick, I mean that seems like the first obvious like title. So I mean
Oh,
that'll probably change as well, But
well, you can't trade. Well, you can trademark comic book headers, but you can't copyright titles. There've been there have been numbers of comic books that have had the same name. Number of books and movies have had the same name. Songs
Yeah.
with the same name. So that's, I don't think that's ever an issue. As long as there's like no confusion in the marketplace that, you know, hey, your thing is my thing. I wouldn't go for Amazing Spider-Man. That might cause some problems.
No. Yeah, I remember I like did some T-shirts a couple of years ago, and it was like only the braid, and then I went and checked, and it was like some movie had like been made, but it was like a Korean movie at the time, and I was like, oh, all right, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a problem there. I had one T-shirt designed. It was one of the first T-shirts I had made up by somebody. And it was interesting because I'd gone to these conventions before. He's always there doing stuff. And I've had him draw stuff before. I'm like, hey, I want you to draw something here, but I really need to be stark black and white because I want to turn it. And he's like, yeah, $20. And I was like, great, because I want to be really sharp because I want to put it on T-shirts. He's like, stop. It's like, we just entered a whole new contract conversation here.
Yeah.
So it cost me different. But I had him draw a profile of HR Puffin stuff, the head, and then coming off the head was scaly tail and a tongue sticking out, and he made Jimmy the Flute the tongue, but it was to look like the Alien Queen, and then underneath it in the alien lettering was just HR Giger stuff, because I thought it was funny. I have that kind of sense of humor. And I put it on T-shirts. He's like, we worked out a deal where I paid him more and I gave him a T-shirt.
Right on.
I was happy with that. But, you know, I didn't know that when you buy artwork at a con, it's still not quite yours.
Yeah. I mean, I've sold paintings, and I've had like a little piece of paper, you know, stating, you know, that, you know, just because you own this piece of art, you know, I still own the reproduction rights to this painting.
Yeah.
You know, like, just because you own it doesn't mean you can take a photo of it and start selling posters of it.
And, you know, and I get that, you know, if you buy a painting from somebody, that's one thing. I thought commissions were different because it's like, you know, it's not only did you buy it, but you also were the creative idea behind it.
If you're a paying artist and you're a commercial artist, I could see that. I could see there being a little hesitation because it isn't just like there's an expectation in usage, I guess, for that piece of art.
Sure.
You know,
and I get it totally. I was just totally ignorant to it when I made the request. I'm glad I spoke up because, you know, I could have found myself in sold 5 T-shirts. I might have owed the guy $50 after that. It's like,
yeah, it's like, I don't know. I don't think he could have done anything legally to you. He could have just talking ill of you, maybe. You know what I mean? I think, you know, once you got the artwork and the money was paid, then that's pretty much it. You know, unless you had agreed to whatever you had agreed on beforehand. That's why he stopped. You know.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
and you know, I'm glad I spoke up because I wouldn't want to intentionally screw any artist.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, like the first Wizard, you know, it had like the McFarlane cover on it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think McFarlane had been like commissioned to do the Wizard. Like that Shane guy had commissioned McFarlane at a con to draw Spider-Man with the Wizard hat on for his dad.
Oh.
And then he took that drawing, beep bop boop, had it colored, bam, suddenly that's the cover of Wizard #1. So you can imagine Todd McFarlane being like, what the fuck?
That was my sketch rate, not my cover rate.
Yeah, like, yo, I just drew that for some dude for his dad, and now it's like all over fucking everything, and I don't think he could have. I don't think he really did anything.
But you know what?
I don't done anything.
I don't think being the businessman he would have wanted to do anything because what Image did for what Wizard did for Image paid off dividends huge down the road.
Well, yeah, then that makes me wonder, like, I'm just spitballing, but he could have said something, and then they would say, look, we'll cover Image as much as you want. You know, like, we'll make sure you have, you know, X amount of coverage in our magazine. Because, yeah, they definitely covered Image and blew Image up and made sure that everybody knew who these guys were and what they looked like. You know, I didn't know what most of these comic book artists looked like until I picked up a Wizard magazine.
That's true. We were, basically going off the letters pages of the comics to get any kind of feedback from a writer or a creator, and that's if they responded, and not just the editorial people. Boy, that's a whole lengthy conversation there going back.
Sorry, I love talking. I'm sorry.
Hey, me too. But I don't want to keep you. We're over the hour line here now, so everybody should have New Year's plans. You got place to go, people to see?
My kids are asleep. I got some coffee. I got a pages to work on. That's kind of my plan for this evening.
There you go. That's me. I'll be surfing around the internet and seeing how much more hated I can get before the midnight strikes. I want to be the most hated man in America before 2021 is out. And I'm
good stuff. Good for you.
Working on it hard.
Yeah, man.
All right, Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. Appreciate you coming on talking about Rock and Roll Ninja. Hope to have you back again to talk more Rock and Roll Ninja when there is more Rock and Roll Ninja.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And all your other projects. Folks in the chat, thank you so much for being here. We don't have a show if you're not here watching it. And as always, we just hope you had a blast.